Hey, beautiful beings. Let's talk about last week's reading from The Secret. It really made me stop and examine my own focus. One of the most powerful lines says, "Your thoughts become things." That alone shifts how I see my daily patterns. If my thoughts carry a frequency, and if that frequency is what attracts the experiences of my life, then I have the responsibility to tune my mind like an instrument. Let's talk about the power of thought. The book repeats over and over again that thoughts are magnetic and thoughts have a frequency. As you think thoughts, they are sent out into the universe, and they magnetically attract all like things that are on the same frequency. It compares us to transmission towers, and that's pretty wild to consider. The idea that we are not just thinking, but broadcasting. And what we broadcast is what we begin to receive. It makes me think more deeply about the connection between faith and frequency. Romans 12:2 says, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That is not a passive suggestion. It is an invitation to actively participate in the shaping of your reality. That scripture aligns directly with the idea in The Secret that says, your current thoughts are creating your future life. What you think about the most or focus on the most will appear as your life. Here's how I've started to see it. When The Secret talks about the universe, I interpret that through my belief that God is the creator of the universe. So when the book says thoughts are sent out into the universe and magnetically attract all like things, I translate that as our thoughts reflect our alignment with or resistance to divine truth. To explain how I view frequency, I came up with this. Frequency equals mission times vision times values, all raised to the power of the Creator. In other words, frequency is not just a vibe. It is a calibration. It is your spiritual equation. The more you live in alignment with your mission, your vision, and your values, the higher your frequency becomes. But that frequency only holds power when it's connected back to the source who gave you those things. The Creator amplifies it. One part of the book that stuck with me said, "Your thoughts determine your frequency, and your feelings tell you immediately what frequency you are on." That made me pause, because sometimes I've tried to change outcomes without first shifting how I feel. But this teaching reminds us that the feeling is the first clue. It is feedback. Scripture echoes that idea in Philippians 4:8, which tell us whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, think about such things. That is more than just a mindset tip. It is an instruction to choose a higher frequency. And then there's this. It is impossible to feel bad and at the same time have good thoughts. That line hit me. Because we often try to push through with positive talk while still feeling deeply out of alignment. The Secret says your emotional state is a diagnostic. You cannot fake frequency. You feel what you broadcast. Another powerful idea is nothing can come into your experience unless you summon it through persistent thoughts. Now that's bold. But then I remembered Mark 11:24, where Jesus says, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." That is alignment. That belief is frequency. And that's not New Age, that's scripture. And then the book closed with one of the most striking truths. The feeling of love is the highest frequency you can emit. The greater the love you feel and emit, the greater the power you are harnessing. That felt like a confirmation, because God is love. And when we operate in love, we're not just tapping into positivity. we are reflecting God's own nature. 1 John 4:12 says, "If we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us." That is frequency at its purest. So last week challenged me to think about what I've been focusing on and to check the frequency I've been operating from. If God is the creator of the universe, then aligning with his truth is the most powerful frequency there is. When you shift your thoughts, you shift your frequency. When you shift your frequency, you shift your life. Stay in tune, stay aligned, keep showing up inside out, and most of all, keep reading with faith and frequency. I hope you learned a lot from last week's reading. I would love to hear your thoughts.